Ian, I don't know if you've had time to reflect on the series yet, but if you had to name things you think this team could add to come out of that series with a win, what would they be?
Oh man, I really haven't put a ton of thought into it. I'm sure that the team here, the management, will certainly sit down and figure that out, and that's why they make the big bucks to make those tough decisions. I think as a player, I think it's best to compartmentalize. This is my job. We're going to let the management figure out the personnel, and the coaches figure out the systems, and I just need to go and try to execute that as best I can.
Ian, you weren't only here for, 2 months maybe, something like that. Were you here long enough to get a good feel of what is going on here and what they got going forward?
I think so, and it's very exciting. Very exciting. I think the trajectory that this team is on, and in my mind, I think a lot of guys in that room's mind, I still think that we could have won that series. I just have this weird feeling that we should be, have a day off today and come back for practice tomorrow. So it's weird. I don't know, being confident in your team and then obviously not getting the job done is tough. So it's certainly something that is disappointing, but I think, like you mentioned, the team is certainly trending upwards in my mind.
I'm sure that things will get sorted out as they go here with the free agency and all that stuff. But as you look at it, I mean, would this be one of your destinations if you could? Would you like to entertain staying here possibly?
Yeah, certainly. I can't say enough how great these guys were, how accepting they were, how accommodating they were, and I have really had nothing but positive things to say about my experience here in Columbus, from the town to the staff to the players. It was certainly an A+ organization in my mind. It was awesome. So.
What are you looking for? I mean, obviously you're going to have suitors. You've already won a couple Stanley Cups. Without saying what teams you want to go to, what are you looking for as far as what appeals to you this summer?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you want to be on a team that has the ability to succeed in obviously both the regular season and the playoffs. I don't think I can't imagine a professional hockey player that purposely want to go to a bad team just so they don't have any pressure. In my mind, my favorite time of the year is the playoffs, and those super competitive, super important games, I think, are the most fun to play in. So, in my mind, being on a great hockey team with a chance to win another Stanley Cup is really what me and I think any player would look for.
You've been on teams that are not quite good enough to make it. You've been on teams that have won the Stanley Cup. Can you say how close this team is to being a team that's worthy of consideration for that trophy? How big is the gap here?
Yeah, it's tough to. I think it's tough to kind of, maybe quantify that or say, oh, we're missing this piece or that piece, because you never know what's going to work and how seamlessly things are going to fit together. I do know we're certainly close. I think this is a team that, in my mind, I don't think this is we want to make the playoffs and then go from there. This is a team where it should be expected that we're making the playoffs every single year, no exceptions, and then what we do in the playoffs after that is what we need to, figure out. So that's where I think this team is. I could be wrong. I don't know. But in my mind, there's no excuse with the talent that we have here why we shouldn't be making the playoffs, every single year, and then going from there.
Do you want a bigger piece? Obviously, you can lead without a letter on your sweater, but would you like to be a bigger, have more involvement as a leader on a team wherever you go?
Well, I think the best teams, have a room full of leaders. I don't think that it's just the guys that have letters that can lead or are even expected to lead. I think everybody has input, and I think those guys certainly are the more maybe noticeable leadership figures, and certainly have the the inside track and are certainly talking to the coaches and management more often. But for me, a letter isn't necessary to be able to lead and hopefully do a good job as a teammate. Obviously that's an honor that any hockey player would love to have. So.
When you're used to playing another 6 or 7 weeks like you've done the past couple of years, how strange is that for you now that your season, when you woke up today and realized your season was over?
Yeah, like I mentioned, it just seems like it's like a day off, and then we have practice tomorrow and right back at it. So it seems, it definitely seems a little weird getting done maybe earlier than I have been the past couple of years. But I think right now it's you got to turn that page, fairly quickly. I'm certainly going to spend, a couple days here with the guys and really get to, have some team bonding after the year, which is always a lot of fun. And, and then certainly turn the page and start working out and start getting ready for next season. It's kind of the world that we live in, where there's not a ton of time off and there's not a ton of downtime. And, I like that. I like, kind of having a goal. And I think next year, trying to be in great shape for next year starts, in about a week. So not a ton of downtime, not a ton of, time to think too much, hopefully. So.
Can you talk about how it's really hard to tell what pieces will fit together seamlessly and what parts are missing sometimes? But at the same time, you've also said you want to prioritize going to a team that's a legitimate cup contender. So how do you do that? Is it just track record? Do you take a look at roster? I mean, you've said how hard it is to analyze hockey, and obviously this season's proved that. So how do you go about making your list of legit cup contenders?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, you look at like a team like Colorado, for instance, where, Duchesne's quoted saying he wants to be on a playoff team. And then, that whole thing, with that worked out the way it did. And, it's tough. So it's tough to speculate. I think you try to look at a roster. And, I think it happened here a couple years ago, actually, too, when a lot of teams were picking the Blue Jackets to be like in the Stanley Cup Finals, and they lost the first 8 games of the year, right? So, I mean, it's tough to speculate, and you try to look at the roster and figure, this is a great team, or I've played this team before, and they're really tough to play against. But you really never know how things are going to gel over the course of an 82-game season. There are so many ups, there's so many downs, there's so many, ebbs and flows to the year. It's tough. It's really tough, but you try to do the best you can, and I don't think there's any perfect science to it, but we certainly try to figure it out.
Ian,
After 2 long cup runs, how tired are you right now? People keep talking about how difficult it would be for Pittsburgh to do it 3 times in a row. Where's your body at? Where's your mind at after playing so much hockey these last almost 3 years now?
Yeah, I mean, it has been a lot of hockey, but I was very excited at the possibility for doing it again this year. Definitely disappointed when it didn't happen, so I think that might hint at where my mind is at. I think if I was too fatigued to the point where I just wasn't in it anymore, I would feel that, and that's not what I felt after Game 5 or after Game 6. So body's feeling good, and everything's been holding up well, physically speaking, and certainly would have loved the opportunity to play longer.
Ian, what did you see in the play of your partner, David Savard, that allowed you two to click so effectively?
Well, he's such a smart hockey player. I mean, I was very fortunate to come in and be paired with a guy that, is a fantastic player and has been a fantastic player in this league for a very long time. And, I think we gelled well. We happened to read plays similarly. And certainly communicate a lot. I mean, he's a great communicator. I try to be a good communicator, and then just trying to let our natural instincts kind of take over after we kind of get that baseline communication down, and it worked out well. So.
He's sending you Omaha steaks or whatever to try to get you to come back?
Omaha steaks?
I don't know.
I do love a good Omaha steak.
An edible arrangement? I don't know.
I do like edible arrangements too. I'll take any and all.
So these are all hints to David? Is what you're
Yeah, exactly.
No, has he talked to you about returning? Do players lobby one another in that way?
I think that there have been a couple of comments made about wanting to see if I wanted to come back, and that's, I mean, it's great to hear. It's nice to hear that guys you met 2 months ago thought that you brought enough and helped the team and think that you could potentially help the team in the future and want you to come back. So that's a great sign that we did some good things here, and it's certainly and it's I've said it before, it's a great hockey team with a great group of guys, so that's certainly a huge part.
I'm obviously a terrible gift giver.
What do you mean? Edible arrangements are fantastic.
Yeah, with Werenski going I mean, you weren't here for all of it, but almost 70 games with clearly an injury that impacted his play. I know a lot of guys do this, but just to be up close and see a guy that's limited battling through it in games like this.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's in my mind, like he was still a top flight defenseman. So, you know, there are things he was battling through, and you know, it's great to see. As a teammate, you want to see your teammates battle through things. You want to see, you know, especially your high skill guys sacrifice and battle, and you know, it certainly leads to you know, a good camaraderie, a good team chemistry. You know, all those things that, you know, are huge, and you know, so it's great to see. I mean, he's you see him try to come back after the puck to the face last year, and you know, he's a tough kid, and you know what he could do, you know, with, you know, being limited, I guess would be a good way to put it, was great.